America's history can be felt on the shores of New England 200 years after its birth, as we work to keep the legacy of those who fought for the right to build a new country alive. During his life, Benjamin Franklin divided his time between American cities and countries abroad. While he made an impact everywhere he went, Franklin's legacy lives on in his birthplace, where he began his journey from humble beginnings and contributed to America's independence, earning him a place as one of America's most respected men in history. This is Ben Franklin's Boston. Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston in 1706 on Milk Street, across the street from the old meeting house. The home that Franklin was born in was destroyed by a fire in 1811. Franklin was the 15th out of 16 siblings and the youngest son. He attended Boston Latin School, the first public school in America, at a young age, and learned the material quickly until he progressed to the top of his class. His parents withdrew him from school early due to this and its hefty cost, which they found was not worth paying once he had achieved much of the knowledge taught to him. Although he did not graduate from Boston Latin School, he has been honored as one of its most famous scholars. An 8-foot-tall statue of Benjamin Franklin is now located at the old City Hall at 45 School Street in downtown Boston, a former site of his school. This statue, sculpted by Richard Greenough and erected in 1856 in honor of his 150th birthday, was the first public statue of a person erected in Boston. Benjamin Franklin was also an avid swimmer throughout his life, both during his times in Boston and time spent in London. Franklin believed that there were health benefits that came from swimming and often promoted the activity. At the young age of 11, Franklin invented swimming fins, but these were not like the swimming fins of today, as they attached to one's hands rather than one's feet and were made out of wood. The material prevented them from being truly successful, but Franklin was nonetheless inducted into the International Swimming Hall of Fame in 1968 for his passion and contribution to the activity. During Franklin's time in London, he taught many of his friends to swim. It was suggested to Franklin that he start a school to teach swimming. Franklin pondered the idea, but later returned to America and started his printing shop before securing a name for himself as an honorable statesman and founding father. After a series of taxes on the American colonies in the 1760s, widespread revolts occurred in the colonies. Following this, Massachusetts Governor Thomas Hutchinson and Lieutenant Governor Andrew Oliver sent a series of letters to English authorities explaining the revolts and advocating that the provincial assemblies should be separated from the government and have their powers limited. While Franklin was in London, he received a package of 13 of these letters from an anonymous sender and, understanding their significance, sent them to the Massachusetts Assembly with instructions not to copy them or publish them. However, due to their inflammatory nature, they were read aloud to the Assembly by Samuel Adams, causing additional civil unrest in Boston and further hatred towards the British government. In the aftermath, 2 men accused each other of leaking the letters and challenged each other to a duel. In order to prevent this, Franklin was forced to admit his responsibility and was labeled a thief, leading to his dismissal as Postmaster General. Following this incident, Britain passed the Coercive Acts, colloquially known as the Intolerable Acts, to punish Massachusetts for its actions, and set the stage for the first battles of the Revolution, Lexington and Concord, just miles from Franklin's birthplace. Granary Burial Ground was Boston's third cemetery in 1660, as the population grew too big for the King's Chapel Burial Ground. Benjamin Franklin's parents were buried at this location, although the monument seen today in the Granary Burial Ground on Tremont Street is not actually the original one Franklin purchased in 1758. By 1826, the original grave had been dilapidated, and a group in Boston erected a new monument made of granite. The original epitaph reads, "Josiah Franklin and Abiah, his wife, lie here interred. They lived lovingly together in wedlock 55 years, and without an estate or any gainful employment, by constant labor and industry, with God's blessing, maintained a large family comfortably, and brought up 13 children and 7 grandchildren reputably. From this instance, reader, be encouraged to diligence in thy calling, and distrust not providence. He was a pious and a prudent man, she a discreet and virtuous woman. Their youngest son, in filial regard to their memory, places this stone. J.F., born 1655, died 1744. A.F., born 1667, died 1752. This epitaph represents the most crucial values for the Franklin family, those which Benjamin himself was raised on. Also buried in Granary are other members of the Franklin family, including Josiah's first wife, their 2 infants, Josiah and Abiah's son, as well as the wife of one of their first cousins. Benjamin Franklin himself is buried in Christ Church Burial Ground in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he resided at the time of his death in 1790. There are many more places in Boston that take pride in their ability to boast the name that made the city famous, each with a unique story to be told. Although our tour has come to an end, we hope that we were able to bring the legend to life through these significant landmarks as you were taken through Benjamin Franklin's Boston.